Fuck the Oscars, you know? Fuck the Oscars! Fuck you!
The movies, the internet stuff is so violent. It's so incredible.
I see worried about it just because the consumption of these violent video games has been going up continuously since the early 90s, and yet youth violence has been going down.
If you look at juvenile crime statistics, which have gone down dramatically over the past 15 years, it really doesn't seem to bear what the American pediatrics.
You can pick up guns, knives. You can now choose to punch, kick, headbutt people, stab them.
And what is up, everybody? You all know what time it is. It's Thursday. As you can hear the music playing behind me. Welcome to today's episode of Tune In Live. I am joined by my co-host and partner, Cypher, or Tom as you all know him.
What up?
And today, as you can tell by the title of our stream, we are talking about Resident Evil 2. As part of the Resident Evil Marathon that I'm hosting on Tune In Live, the big countdown to Resident Evil 3. So before I get into today's topic, I want to give you all guys a heads up on where you are watching us right now. We are sponsoring Restream.io. Are you a streamer? Are you a gamer? Do you want to get your content out there with your game streaming and podcasting? Check out Restream.io. Free to sign up, free to stream. What it does, you connect your streaming software to this website and you can link it to different streaming platforms at once. So if you got different audiences on YouTube, Mixer, Twitch.tv, Facebook Gaming, whatever, you can link them all to one network, one website, one server, and you can get your content out there to multiple platforms at once. So right now we are live on YouTube, Arrow Entertainment. If you're watching us over there, we're live on twitch.tv/Arrow with a name, and we are now once again streaming on mixer.com/Arrow with a name. Also, you can find us on Twitter at ArrowOfficial. Yeah, that was the old Twitter. That was the one that got shut down months ago. It's amazing how it got shut down. I made a comment about Hillary Clinton or some shit, and then CNN flagged it, and I was gone. I was boycotting Twitter around that, and I said, screw it, I'll come back. So our new Twitter is at ArrowWAN2020, and also Tom's Twitter is at TomMurphy1018, and you can find us on Facebook.com/Arrow Encoded. So, getting into the stream today, Resident Evil 2. Now, I'm going to ask Tom, when's the first time you played Resident Evil 2?
Let me think.
I know you got every version of it in your household.
Not yet, I don't.
Okay.
I'm missing the N64 version.
All right, do you have the PC version?
Actually, no, I forgot that came out for PC too, so I'm missing both.
Damn. I just wonder if the PC version still works today on these newer computers.
Honestly, right now, I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do with my older systems because my standard TV died last night.
Oh man, that sucks. And that's the one that New to Us gave you for free, wasn't it?
No, not TV. They gave me a cane.
Oh, okay. So is it that TV that you showed me when I was there last week? Or is that a different one?
The big silver one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rest in peace to that thing right there.
So I'm probably going to see if I can find like a converter box or something that I can run my switchboards through to make everything just go HDMI.
You actually can. I got a couple of those too. They're all RCA output, right? The red, white, and yeah. You can get. Let's see, how many consoles you got?
Quite a few. You gotta remember, I kind of collect systems. So.
Oh yeah.
I got quite a few, but they're hooked up to switchboards right now. And I know that they make something that you can convert it to HDMI. It's just the thing I've been looking for, it's out of stock everywhere.
Oh man. RCA to not RAW to HDMI.
Which means I can't play my Resident Evil 2 or Resident Evil 3 on my PS1 or my Dreamcast.
Now, there is something, and I've experimented with this a little bit. I have one. Amazon has these RCA to HDMI composite converter boxes. And what it does, you input your RCA composite cord into one end, and the output is HDMI, and you can switch between 720 and 1080. Now, I've always experimented growing up because my dad's always been into electronics and hooking shit up. I mean, my dad was one of the people back in the 90s who was dubbing VHS with 2 VCRs, so he knew how to hook shit up, and I picked all that up from him. So what I did, I got that composite converter, and I would take the output from the RCA box, because some of those boxes you can connect up to, I think it's like 4 consoles to one using RCA, and it's got like 4 inputs and it's got 1 output. So what I would do, I would take the output, plug it into the composite box, the converter, and then plug that into either an HDMI port, or in my case, I have one of those HDMI switch boxes. I would plug it into the switch box. So if I got like multiple HDMI consoles going on at once, everything's plugged into my HDMI switch box.
I do have HDMI switch boxes. It's just I don't have a thing to convert the component or composite, whatever they want to call it.
All right.
Over.
Here's a I'll put a link in the Discord that you could check out later. This is for a search result on Amazon. They got quite a few on here you can look at and see if it's anything you want to grab.
Because the idea is just to buy one converter box and just hook the switchboards up to it.
That's all you got to do. That's like I said. If you hook up 4 consoles to one switch box, you could take the output from that switch box, connect it to the converter, and then connect your HDMI to whatever you want to connect it to. So basically, every console will be outputting through one output. Still, you ain't got to worry about investing in like 4 or 5 different converters, unless.
With the Dreamcast, I'm not too sure, because with a lot of the things for the Dreamcast, I'm noticing they're saying, some games won't work on it because they have to have like VGA output or something like that, and it's like, I'm not sure how that's going to work.
Nah, you got to figure now, like when the Dreamcast came out, that's all it has was this traditional adapter with the RCA. And every single game
they also had a VGA one come out for it.
Yeah. Well, I think that one came out a little later. Like, even people are homebrewing their own converters. Like, I'm of course you watch Metal Jesus Rocks, I'm sure. You know, he's talked about a lot of them. Because the way he has everything set up and how he has them set up, I just love his setup, you know. He does a pretty good job with it, especially showing off the hardware.
Well, the last converter box thing that he reviewed was the one I was looking into, but it is sold out everywhere.
That's why he is so popular. We're talking about that shit. Once word gets out about it, it's gone.
The first version of it, though, is like $90, and you can buy that. But firmware updates are apparently a pain in the ass for it.
I think I've seen the same one you talk. Is that the one where the first version, it looked like a motherboard with some wires attached to it, and it had a little button on it to switch between 1080 and shit?
I don't know about all that, but I know you had to get your finger inside something like your pinky to
Yep.
push the button.
That's what it was, yeah. And then the version 2 was just it was a clear box, and they added the switch button on the back. That way, it's easy to access.
And they also got rid of the micro HDMI.
Yeah. And that's another.
That's what I was going after.
Yeah. And that's another setback for me a little bit right there, is the way some of these boxes are. They run on the micro S. Well, they're not. I guess they're kind of like a micro adapter to USB, where it's like you gotta have the USB box to plug it in for power, kind of like how the
That's
Fire
not what
Stick
I'm
is.
talking about. I was
Right on.
talking about the HDMI cord.
Oh yeah, the mini HDMI, yeah.
Yeah, the first one ran off the mini HDMI, and they replaced it with regular HDMI.
Yeah. I never got into that, I never really got into that, the HDMI shit, the mini ones. I just don't see, like, what's the big deal, like, HDMI, like, what is, what's the purpose of a mini HDMI, really?
I don't know why they made them either, but I know I have a cord here that can convert to a mini HDMI that I guess it was so I could use it like when hooking up like a tablet to a TV or something, like I wanted to show something.
Yeah.
I could understand that because tablets are like really thin. I'm guessing that's why they made micro,
Yeah.
HDMIs.
Oh, man. The dilemma with TVs today. Video game consoles. That's the biggest thing right there that challenges game collectors is the hardware you have. Sometimes it dies, and it's just a lot of money to put out in order to keep your collection up to date. Well, that's like even James Rolfe. He had this he had that big gray boxy tube TV for so long, and then he replaced it like a year or two ago with a fucking flat screen, and he had all these converters and stuff set up finally for it. It's just It's just now, like, if you want to play something like what me and you saw last week, that in television, I'm pretty sure that's one of the ones that has those old as the fucking pitchforks that you got to plug into the back of the TV.
And I don't even think modern TVs have those on them anymore.
Well, a lot of these modern TVs, they still have coaxial. And I used to have one of these, and it's a damn shame Radio Shack ain't around anymore. You could find anything at Radio Shack, but I'm pretty sure you could find them online. It was a little box that was for coaxial.
That's why Radio Shack wasn't around anymore. You said you could find anything there.
Yeah.
At the time, I found nothing.
Oh, believe me, like, if there was something particular I was looking for, usually they would know what I'm looking for, and they would have it there. But now
I miss Circuit City.
Yeah, they were another one. But now if you go to
that's a place I could find what I was looking for.
Oh, definitely. Even if it was like expensive, but yeah. But now it's like
Best Buy.
Yeah, Best Buy. If you go and check over there at Best Buy, like, they don't even know what the hell you're talking about. I went in there a year ago, and I was looking for a particular wire. Like, just a regular, some kind of wire for something I was doing. They didn't know what the hell I was talking about. Like, I was getting passed off from person to person to person, and then I'm like, fuck it. What I'm looking for, I'm going to find online. I'm probably going to pay out a few more bucks for it. Like, they don't know. Like, they just hire anybody. Best Buy will hire any fucking body. And I'm like, you got somebody like me. I'm like, look, yeah, I'm a little old school. I'm 34 years old, but I know what I'm fucking talking about. You got people in there that are like 5 to 10 years younger than me. And these are people that grew up on the technology that me and you had to evolve into. You know, cell phones and tablets and shit. Like, some of our old generation, some of the generation that follows up, you know, that is along with us, you know, as we're evolving with new technology, we're still trying to figure it out to a point where you got all these, you know, these up and comers, the youngsters that I like to call them, even if they're like fucking 20 some years old, they're getting into tablets and shit, and they know how to do this and do that. But if you ask them about something old school, like the rabbit ear antennas for old tube TVs or something, or if you need a converter for that, they just look at you like, huh? Do you have an auxiliary cable? Huh? How about RCA?
Well, my problem with Best Buy is related, ironically.
Mm. Yeah,
it's part of the reason I won't go back, because they really pissed me off with this.
The Cyber Power saga.
No, that wasn't that.
Okay.
No. I went in there and bought a copy of the CGI Resident Evil movies. Right?
Oh, yeah, you were telling me about that, yeah.
Triple pack.
Yeah.
Right? I get it home, right? All the discs are there. I try one movie, you know, I just wanted to make sure they worked, right?
Yeah.
It worked. Then I tried another movie, and then I went, wait a minute, this is the same movie.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
So I try to go back there, right? Because I call them up, and I said, hey, can I bring this in? They said, yeah, bring it back, right? I go in, right? Just for them to tell me, oh, we can't take it back.
Mm-hmm.
Because you opened it. And it's like, I opened it, you know, a day ago.
Exactly.
They're like, you have to contact the manufacturer if you want a new copy. And I just looked down and went, you know what? Take the discs, shove them up your ass, and go fuck yourself. And
Yep.
I haven't been back since.
Exactly. And it's usually a case of either, I mean, I don't know how their store policy is. I know the return policy is as you say, you're supposed to be able to take the thing back and return it as long as you got a receipt.
Right.
So I'm just wondering if it was like just that one random asshole was just like, I don't feel like doing my job today. I hate fucking life. The next motherfucker that comes in here, which could have been you, I'm gonna say, no, fuck you. This is going to happen. I mean, the fucking people that they hire at stores like that nowadays, you know, it's like I said, they're not trained properly. They're not.
The only
What's the word for it?
credentials they need to work there is know how to breathe.
Yeah, exactly.
But like you were talking about all this technology stuff and all, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I mentioned a tablet and stuff like that, right? I don't actually use a tablet.
Yeah.
I had a tablet.
Same
I
here.
gave it to my wife because the hell do I need a tablet for? I got a computer.
Yeah, computer, a phone could do just as much too, you know, just like a computer.
And I'm sure it still baffles people when they ask me a question and I say I don't know, and they look at me like I'm going to immediately pull out my phone and look it up on Google. I don't do that.
Yeah, no.
I use a phone for the purpose it was originally invented.
To talk to people.
I mean, I adapted to text. I don't mind that too much.
Yeah.
You know, but that's all I do is I text and I use the phone to call.
Exactly.
That's it.
Yeah.
Do I know how to do all the other crap on it? Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really care. Let me just put it this way. I know that Google is not going to save my life in a life and death situation.
Exactly.
Know what I mean?
Yeah, because there's going to be times.
Even with the internet, right, where you can make Wi-Fi calls off your phone and shit.
Mm-hmm.
We had that earthquake that one time, right?
Yep, and you couldn't make a call out, and everybody was.
All cell phones were down.
Everybody was in panic. I remember that.
You know what's funny? You know the one thing that did work?
The landlines.
The landlines, exactly. Didn't affect the landlines at all.
Yep.
But yet we're trying to make them obsolete. Why?
That's like saying like, technology, yeah, it's evolving, but it's good to keep the quote unquote dinosaurs around because those dinosaurs are going to save your ass one day. Like this newer generation, they're not going to know how to survive once we're killed off. You know, what somebody who
they don't know, they're not going to know what to do if the internet goes down for 72 hours.
There's that, and plus, let's
give
say
it 3 days.
Yeah.
Before all hell breaks loose.
There's that, and plus, you go camping. You know, nowadays people go camping to get away from civilization, to get away from, you know, the troubles of the city and all.
I know how to hunt. I know how to fish.
Yep.
I know how to build a shelter. You know, I know how to make fire.
And that's what a lot of people, young people nowadays, they don't know how to do. I mean, they're more like, yeah, they're probably taught and trained to do that. But a lot of the
only way they would know how to make a fire is to sit their cell phone in the middle of the fire pit and put a pillow over it.
That or take an axe to it and let that motherfucker blow up. That's like I was showing this young girl that used to work with me, and we had so many of these fucking rocks out front of the building, and they were like big enough to fit in your hand and all, that they were real smooth. And I said, you know how to start a fire? And she was like, well, a lighter? I said, nah. I took 2 rocks and I aggressively like clanked them, like just clanked them together, and you get where you get that spark. And I'm like, you see, you get yourself a little bit of brush and you do that with something, get that spark in there and get some oxygen, you're good. I'm like, anybody can start a fire around this motherfucker.
I mean, I know we're still off topic, but here's the thing I noticed too is, like, when I was growing up, I used to go up to the hunting camp with my father, my brother, my uncles, right? Mm-hmm. And then their kids, or, you know, their kids' kids would come up.
Yeah.
Right? So there used to be a bunch of us up there.
Yeah.
But as we got older, less and less people started showing up from the younger generation.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? They'd rather play with their fucking phones than learn a skill that might actually save them.
Yeah, to learn actual survival in life. Like, what are you going to do when you're up in the mountains and there's no cell phone signal, there's no internet, you get snowed in, the only thing you got is a...
Oh, I love it. I love it. Because my phone up there is nothing more than a glorified flashlight.
Pretty much.
I get no signal.
Yeah, because those kind of places, they're relaxing places. Like, you're not meant to go up there and spend your time on a cell phone, you know, viewing the internet and shit. Like, you go up there to get away from, you know, the stress of life. It's relaxing. That's a true man's vacation.
If a predator, you know, comes out in the woods, right? I know what to do when there's a bear. I know what to do if there's a wolf. I know what to do if there's a mountain lion. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, because kids today...
What are the kids nowadays going to do? Try to reason with it?
Yeah, that or say, oh, yeah, I'm offended. I'm offended by this bear. It looks at me like it's want to eat me. See, to bring us around full circle again, and it makes sense to go off topic a little bit because... We're talking about, like, Resident Evil, and you mentioned the older game consoles and all. Like, this is a lot of stuff that today's younger generation has never experienced. And, there's... all right, you take a 20-year-old today. What is the very first...
Back in our day, we put batteries in our handhelds.
Yep. And it wasn't just
Do you remember? Pepperidge Farm remembers.
They also remember the very first vibrators, too. There's your first true battery-operated electronic right there. For moms only. But yeah, you take a typical 20-year-old today, and I've asked several of them these types of questions, all right? I'd be like, what was the first gaming system you've played? growing up. And usually it's either PlayStation 2 or Xbox 360 or PS3, somewhere around that. And
I'm surprised they won't have that snooty comment that you go, how dare you call it, a system? It's a console. I'd smack shit out of them.
Oh, yeah. That I think we could make a URC topic right there.
Even though we are technically part of the millennial generation, I can't stand millennials.
I think we are the smarter of that group. We're the ones with the more smarts, more book smarts than, well, we have street smarts, but I think we're more book smarts because we grew up around technology, and as we continue to evolve, yeah, but we also learn more about what we handle growing up. I'm trying to think of a word. I'm trying to think of a way to turn that into simple words. Like my mind's kind of fried there a little bit. But here's an example. So there was this young guy I used to work with, and we used to talk about video games all the time at work. This dude never knew what an N64 was. He didn't even know what an NES was. He was like, NES? I was like, Nintendo. He said, oh, you mean GameCube? I was like, no, this is the very first NES. He's like, oh man, I didn't think they made anything before GameCube. I'm like, oh yeah.
Well, we also have a different type of privilege than the generation after us.
Yep.
Even my father has stated this to me, that we were born at the right time because that's when technology boomed.
Exactly.
Which is why we are able to adapt to it much easier than people that are like in their 60s and 70s.
Yep.
Because we've constantly had new technology come out our entire lives.
Oh yeah.
Like rapid pace.
I don't know what the hell that was. Oh well. But yeah, it's amazing. I love schooling somebody on the technology that we've had. Like I feel so proud of my generation. Like I feel so I don't know if it was I say so proud. I enjoy bragging about it because I'm like, hey, my generation. I grew up. My very first game console I played was Atari 2600. I got yeah. I didn't get to experience the Intellivision or the ColecoVision or the.
But the difference is we knew about those though.
Yep. And
we knew
I
about those systems.
Exactly, and that's what I love about it. I love schooling myself on that kind of technology. It interests me, and when you're into technology, and especially when you're a gamer, and you have a very high interest in it, it's a good feeling.
When we went into that store and we saw the Intellivision, right?
Yeah.
We both knew immediately what it was.
Yep. And then my thing was I never seen one up close or really even touched it, but I knew what it was and I knew what it was capable of. And I'm just like, holy shit, look at this.
And then we saw all the games that were there for it.
Yeah. And it's like, this is the stuff that you learn about, but when you're up close handling it, like it's just right there face to face with you, and it's like it's a whole different thing, and you're like, I know what this is. And even if I didn't get a chance to try it out or play it or anything, just being there with a piece of what I like to call history, a piece of our history, video game history in our lives, like what you said, the Intellivision. This is a piece of history that is almost 40 years old. Like the Intellivision, when the hell did that fucker come out? Oh, I gotta look this up real quick. Let's see, Intellivision, if I can even spell right. Intellivision came out in North America in 1980. So it's actually 40 years old.
Yeah.
And well, yeah, a little over 40 years old. It came out in the U.S. It released in the U.S. test market, December 3rd, 1979. North America fully released was 1980. So this is a console that's 40 years old, and we were standing right next to it. You know, I was feeling the controller. I was like, I want to see how these controllers feel and stuff. You know, it's a piece of history, and history.
Funny thing is, if I would have had the money for it, I would have bought it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have snagged that right up, and I would have been like, "Hey, I know what we're doing today."
Yeah, exactly.
I would have probably bought all the games too.
And that's what I love. Like when I mention history, like video games, like is a big interest for me, and I love it.
Oh
but,
God, could you imagine the stream we could have had if we managed to do that?
Yeah. Let's stream some old school in television if we can.
While people will be watching, what the hell are they doing?
We're playing a piece of ancient technology. Ancient. Actually, if you want ancient technology, look for the Magnavox Odyssey. There's your fucking there's your piece of history right there. Like good old, what was his name? Good old Ralph Baer. If it wasn't for Ralph Baer, we wouldn't have video game technology in our homes today, possibly.
But I mean, the Philips CD, I think there was a Panasonic thing that I saw one time.
Yep. Yeah, I think that was
at the same store. At the same store, I saw it, and it was like $200.
Yep. Those things were expensive. I think that was the...
It was one of those moments again, though. It's like, if I had the money on me at that time...
Yeah, I think that was like the 3DO,
it'd be coming back to my house.
Oh, yeah. I know.
I'd be putting that bitch on display.
and this stuff, people don't even realize, like, what they actually have. Like, video games are big. They're a big piece of history right now, and they're about as rare as, like, an antique doll or something. Like, video games have been around for over 40 years, and people are...
But also, when we were younger, Mike, gaming's changed a lot. Because back when we were kids, win or lose, we didn't really care. We were just having fun.
Exactly.
And nowadays, everybody gets so pissed and worked up when they can't do something in a game. Even I do it.
Yeah,
but I mean,
we'll get this. Yeah.
It was different back then.
Yeah, because back then, like, nowadays, yeah, we get worked up. It's what gamers do, You get frustrated in a video game. I mean, who hasn't broken a fucking controller or rage quit in a game? I'm like, okay.
I've never broken a controller.
I'm guilty of maybe 2 or 3.
I know. Nowadays, though, you hear me say "fuck this game" a lot, and I shut it off.
See, people nowadays, they're talking about how some games, the difficulty isn't all there, or maybe a game's too hard for them and shit. I'm like, hey, have you tried Contra? How about Ghosts and Goblins? No, better yet, Battletoads. Have you tried Silver Surfer? Motherfucker, you don't know what hard is.
Well, we didn't care. We didn't care back then.
Exactly.
We might get slightly fed up with it, but we wouldn't get to the point where it's like we want to throw the controller through the TV and stuff like that,
Which is actually another good topic to bring up, and it goes along with Resident Evil. So since we are coming around full circle again with this piece of ancient history right here. So I mentioned in the last episode that when Resident Evil, the first one, came out, and it was deemed a pretty hard entry. It had its difficulty system. It had 2 or 3 difficulties to it, especially when the DualShock versions came out, and they added an arrange mode, which pretty much changed up the item locations in the game and a couple other things. But I was like, still overall, Resident Evil was pretty difficult with some of the bosses and just the item management alone. So now you got Resident Evil 2 comes along. Not really as hard. I mean, it can be hard if you pick like a harder difficulty where ammo is very scarce along with healing items. But how would you compare the two when you've played them? Like, I know you played them all, or at least most of them. I don't know if you played them all, but how would you compare yourself with the difficulty between those two?
Between what, the first two games?
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, I didn't really find them too difficult.
Yeah. Well, that's like, and then 3 comes out, and we'll get to 3 next week.
But then again, you're still talking to the guy that's never actually died in those Resident Evil games.
Yeah. I mean, I know sadly I have. Like, you know, the first time playing them, like, here's a little bit of history.
In the fifth game, I guess you could say I technically died, even though it wasn't me.
Yeah.
It was this stupid AI ran over to the guy with the chainsaw and tried to eat it.
Oh, believe me, when we will get there in a couple of weeks.
So I don't even think that one counts because 1, it wasn't me, and 2, it was the AI's stupid programming.
Oh, believe me, we will be touching base on 5 here soon.
I keep trying to start Resident Evil 6, but then I just can't. I can't bring myself to play it.
Because of, I guess, with everybody talking about how negative it is.
Well, I've seen clips from it and shit like that, and I'm thinking, what the fuck did they do to this game?
I didn't think it was too bad. Like, yeah, it's not the most likable of the series. Like, it could have been
nice
worse.
to see zombies again.
Yeah. And the thing that was a little confusing to a lot of people, I could see, was the multiple storyline, because there was like 4 separate storylines that all interacted with each other for one big storyline. Like, you had 2 characters going after one particular objective, and you got 2 other characters going after another, and so forth. It follows suit, but they all came around in one great big loop. So if you play like the first part, which was Leon and his partner, you can get through that chapter within maybe 2.5, 3 hours. And then you still got Chris and his partner, and then you got Jake and Sherry Birkin, which, sorry to bring up because we talked about that, but we'll just go beyond. We'll go past what we saw and discussed already. That's already been a thing. But you got Sherry Birkin, who's more into her adult years, like a young adult, along with Jake Wesker, goes into his story. And then you got Ada Wong, who's back, and her story it's kind of like she interacts with all 3 in a way while she's doing her own thing, and it's like a convoluted mess. But I personally enjoyed it when it came out. I was like, you know, because I guess coming from a fan of the whole franchise, because I love Resident Evil in general. Like, I can see both sides of the coin. I can see where... I don't know why my fucking phone is...
I didn't understand that.
I didn't say anything to you, bitch! My fucking phone's having a seizure. I got this fucking...
Now get in the kitchen and make him a sandwich.
Yeah. I got this app on my phone called Bixby. Apparently it picked up my voice saying something, and it's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't get that. Because I wasn't talking to you. Oh yeah, we'll get to that one too in the future. Yeah, we'll do that in like a couple of more episodes. But yeah, Resident Evil 2, when that came out on a lot of different platforms, which is kind of like where we were kind of diverting a little bit, but you know, we've made a good point about technology and, you know, gaming consoles and stuff like that. So this game came out on PS1, Windows PC, Windows 98 PC, Nintendo 64, Dreamcast, GameCube, and here's one you probably don't have, and you probably forgot about this one, the Tiger Gamecom.
Nobody owned that. That thing was a piece of crap. Not only that game can't be worth anything on that. That thing was shit.
I know. The thing, I actually, like, seeing the commercials back in the 90s, I sort of wanted one, but now, like, looking back on it and seeing AVGN's review on it, I was like, yeah, I'm glad I would have never gotten into that. Especially with a copy of Resident Evil on there, the way it looked. Like,
Yeah, it was horrible.
Yeah.
And that's saying something from seeing what Resident Evil Gaiden looked like on the Game Boy Color.
Oh, God, yeah. And, of course...
It's not a bad game. Wasn't a bad game.
No. And I have the ROM for it. I never really fully played through it.
It definitely could have used a little bit more polish, though, on the way it looked.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they really let that get pixelated.
Yeah, because I guess they were trying too hard to make it look like, you know, close to what the PlayStation versions look like, but you're working with limited hardware.
That's what I'm saying. When it's limited hardware, usually the simplest solution is the best solution.
Mm-hmm. That or just not make it at all, you know?
I really would have loved it if they would have ever released Resident Evil 1.5. That would have been nice.
Actually, I have a ROM for that, too.
You know exactly what I'm talking about. It's the original Resident Evil 2.
Yep.
Before it was released and they did all the changes to it.
Exactly, yeah, because that was supposed to come out, and then they just completely scrapped that and brought in...
It had some neat creatures in it and stuff.
Yeah. I might play that later on, because I have a copy of that for my emulator. I might play that later on. I haven't got a chance to do it.
Somebody patched it together, is what it was. They found pieces of it, and somehow the whole thing came together.
Yeah. Because they were working on that, and then while they were working on that, that's when they were releasing the director's cut version of the first game, which I covered in the last episode. They released 2 director's cuts, and the director's cut version that I had was the the DualShock version. And I explained in the first one that
I have both DualShock versions.
Yeah. And the major difference with it is the music in the game. I mean, there could be something else that's a subtle change or a subtle difference, but I know the soundtrack, the score is different. Mm-hmm. And I'm more keen to the soundtrack for the DualShock version than the original. I guess because, you know, I like that version, I guess. You know, that's the first one that I played was the DualShock version of Resident Evil, and I liked the music. I was so, you know, used to it that when I played the other version of it, I was like, this music sounds oddly different. Like, I don't remember this song playing. I don't remember this at all. But the very first game I actually played out of the franchise was RE2. And it was back in 1998 or not. Yeah, I want to say about 98, 99, somewhere around there. Because this game came out early 98. So it's over 20 years old. So this game is 22 years old. And
I think I got the game in 99 for Christmas. Because that's when I got the PS1. Not the original PlayStation. The one
you got the
called
Slim.
PS1.
Yeah, you got the Slim one.
Yeah, because I had never owned one before. Because originally I was given the option I could have one or the other. I couldn't have both.
Yeah.
Just to be surprised that year that they decided to get me that anyway. And I got Resident Evil 2 with it. Actually, I think I got both Resident Evil and Resident Evil 2.
Oh, nice.
And then I also got Final Fantasy 7 and 8.
Damn, you had a
I remember. You got to remember, I remember my entire life.
That's how I am. That's how my friend tells me. I'm like the Elephant Man. I remember everything.
I wouldn't say it's an eidetic memory because I don't remember pointless shit. You get what I mean? But
yeah.
I remember what was going on. I could tell you what the weather was that day. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I remember that type of detail.
Oh, but I do remember too. I remember, like, I have a spoon in my kitchen drawer that I remember where I got. I can't remember the girl's name.
You told me about this. That's right.
Yeah, and I couldn't remember the name of the girl, but she was over in my house, and we were sitting out in my backyard, and she was eating a bowl of cereal, and I was playing on my tricycle at the time. And yeah, kitties, a tricycle. If you don't know what a tricycle is, it's a bike with 3 wheels. There's another piece of ancient history I'm talking about there. So I'm playing around with
And the red
tricycle.
wagons.
Yep, I had one of them too. I had when wagons were popular. And I remember she went home that afternoon. I never seen her again, which was weird. I never seen this girl again, and she lived in the community that I lived in. And she left her spoon there, and I told my mom she left her spoon. She said, "Well, I'll go ahead and wash it, and we'll hold on to it, and when she comes back, you can give it to her." And here it is, well over, well, let's see, about 30 years later, the spoon is still intact, and it's in my kitchen drawer, and I remember where it came from. And
But I remember when I was in a crib.
Same here. I remember
I might have been. Shit. I don't even think I was a year old. I remember what my crib looked like. I remember what color the walls were. I remember what were on the walls. I remember there was a dresser in there right next to the closet, and I had a small room. You see what I'm saying? I remember all of it. I remember I also used to have because I was right next to the door.
Yep.
Right under the light switch.
Okay.
It used to be a light switch that had like a orange bulb in it or something. When you would turn them off, it would light up.
Oh, yeah.
I remember that. I remember the fact that our bathroom had a green tub in it with some weird looking tile on the floor and some green tiles on the walls. You see what I'm saying? I also remember the kitchen had this ugly green countertop, and then these. I would say they were almost like almost a cherry wood color cabinets, right?
Okay.
That had these black metal handles on them. I don't know if you've seen these before, but they're those things that have like they're almost shaped like a spade from like a card game.
Okay.
In the back, and if you touched it wrong, you cut your hand.
Oh,
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Those, I remember all of them.
Yes, same here. I even got pictures. Like, even looking at a picture, it flood back a dozen memories of something, too. That's just something that I guess Pepperidge Farms couldn't even remember. And only we remember certain things that Pepperidge Farms can't. But yeah, I do remember a lot of that.
I remember stuff that my parents couldn't even remember.
Yep,
And then I'd go,
here.
I know there's got to be a picture of it somewhere, and I'd go to an album and I'd show them, and they'd go, "How the hell do you remember this?" I remember my entire life. I remember everything good and everything bad that's ever happened to me.
Yep.
And I know who's caused it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Just
Never
like
forgot.
yeah, just like with like I was saying about this game. I remember around that time, okay, my uncle, James, he had the original PlayStation, and he had the version that I wanted because and I showed it to you that day at New to Us. It was the version that had the serial port on the back with the little cover. Because if you
Do you know what's sad about that?
Huh.
I had one of those here.
Oh.
And I sold it to Tim.
Oh, God. I bet you he don't even know what that port's for.
He probably doesn't, but yep, I had one of those. If I would have known that back, before he was interested in it, shit, if I would have known you were looking for it.
Yeah.
I sold it to him for $10.
Yeah, because James had that, and it was for the Game Shark. And the game, and I was fascinated with it because the Game Shark plugged into the back of it, and it acted as memory port 1, where you could save more than what was it? A standard memory card can hold like what 15 saves or something. I forgot what it was, but I think the Game Shark memory card can hold a lot more on it. So we had that. And that's how we were able to play all these Resident Evil games and beat them, is cheating, of course. You know, infinite ammo, infinite health, rocket launcher, whatever you need. So, and
I still have a Game Shark, but mine was I guess you would say it was a newer version.
Okay.
Because mine, I would use a separate memory card. I would put 2 memory cards in, and I would use one strictly for the Game Shark, because all I did was put a disc in, and I would load up what I wanted to use, but I would save it to the second card.
The good old days of saving them memory cards. Yeah. But yeah, I had the version of the PS1 I had was, of course, the second version, which they took out the serial port. And then, of course, I eventually got a PS1, I think a year or two later. Yeah, it was a couple of years later, because the the circular piece in the center of the disk drive, like there were certain little pieces that would break away from it, which was, I guess it was a tendency for it, so it wouldn't hold discs in place, so I ended up getting the PS1, but the very first time I saw Resident Evil being played, my uncle had it, and he had the first one, so I'm sitting there watching him play, and I'm like, I don't know, this looks like it could be a confusing or complicated game for me, but I was like, I wouldn't mind trying it. And then, of course, when I got my PlayStation for Christmas, this was back in 98, and every version of PlayStation back then, here's a little lesson for you kiddies listening, okay? Every version of PlayStation that I remember came with an interactive demo disc. And I had what was called Interactive CD Sampler 7, and it had the trailer for Resident Evil 2 on there. And I was just blown away when I watched it. I was like, holy shit. And it was this fucking horror game with these creatures or monsters. And I was just like, holy shit. And James had gotten it too, I think later that year for Christmas. So here I am in 99, sitting at lunch with my friends. Let's see. I remember it was Ben. Then there was my buddy Josh, and I think another friend of mine, Thanasius. He was sitting next to me. But I think that day it was just me, Ben, and Josh. And I'm talking to him about Resident Evil, because I was like, yeah, I was at my grandmother's house over the weekend, and my uncle was playing Resident Evil, and that game was something else. And Ben's like, well, if you want to try it out, I have the second game. And I was like, okay. I mean, I don't have too many games I can let you borrow. You know, I got to figure, you know, that's what we did in middle school and high school, was like, you know, let friends let each other borrow games and shit. And he was like, no, I'm cool. That's all right. So he was like, it's 2 discs. So which disc would you like to try out? And I'm like, wouldn't you need both discs to play? It's like, no, not necessarily. You know, it's 2 different characters. I was like, okay, so which one do you recommend? And he said, well, take the girl disc. She's a lot easier than the guy disc. I'm like, okay. You know, because back then I didn't know the name of the characters in the games, because I ain't never played them before. So he gives me Claire, and I took it home for that weekend. I shit you not. I'm pretty sure this is everybody else who's ever played Resident Evil 2. As soon as I start out, I didn't know how to fucking move. I'm standing there trying to figure out the controls, and of course, the first 30 seconds, I get eaten alive. Like, Jesus Christ. So, I finally managed to learn how to move, and I learned how to shoot and open the inventory up and all. And I get through the first street, and I'm like, okay, where do I go now? And I get to the alley where the Kendu gun shop is. And I see a door. I'm like, how do you go through the door? And I don't know anything about it. You know, I'm like, okay, so I don't know how to get past this, so I'll see Ben tomorrow or something, you know? And that was a Thursday he brought the game in. Friday I went to him, and I was like, I got to the end of the alley. I killed all the zombies, but I can't figure out where to go next. And he said, well, there's a door at the end of the alley. I said, okay, I saw the door. He said, you go through it. I'm like, oh, okay, but how do I go through it? You walk up to it and press X. I'm like, really? That's all you do? So yeah, any door you come across, you just push X. So when I got home, I popped it in and I started playing it. I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. It's pretty interesting. You know, I'm going through, you know, I'm shooting shit up. I get to the police station. I'm in the police station for like maybe 3 hours. This is a game that takes you literally anywhere between 2.5 hours to beat. I'm in the police station for 3 hours trying to figure out what the fuck to do. I had found maybe 2 or 3 keys, and I was still looking for like other little things for the one office, which was these little fucking clay blocks that you put into a picture in the wall. And I'm trying to figure it all out, and I was like, this is as far as I got. I'm done. I didn't even feel like looking online. Like at that time, we had GameFAQs.com. Used to look that up through the good old dial-up internet.
Oh yeah, the dial-up internet. Yeah. Oh god.
Those were the days. And the thing is, I think no, I had just got the landline installed in my room. That's right. Because I was trying to get the internet in my room, and my dad had finally drilled a hole in my floor and ran a phone line up through the floor, so I was able to get on the internet. But then around that time, it was like either somebody was on the phone, so I couldn't get on the internet, or I didn't feel like getting online because I'm like, you know, GameFAQs has guides on there. People spend their time typing out game guides, and I'm like, I don't feel like reading through all that, so fuck it. So I took it back to him, you know, the following, you know, Monday, and I was like, I like it. It's a little hard because, you know, I kept dying, and then I was trying to figure out, you know, where to go, this and that and all. But I told him, yeah, I'll get with my uncle and play with him for a little bit.
Oh god, do you remember ever trying to print out those guides?
Oh,
it
Jesus
took
Christ.
ever.
I had a fucking dot matrix printer. If you remember.
Oh god. Yes, I remember.
It was a hand-me-down from my dad. My dad had got a Canon printer, and he gave me his old printer. And what's weird about it, I can't find it anywhere online. Not even a screen cap of it, but I remember what type of printer it was. It was a Star printer, and it was this big box. It was like a big rectangular box, and it was, you know, it was round and smooth on the front. It said Star. You know, back then Star was pretty popular with its printers and electronics. And this is one that if you were printing a document, it would take literally like 3 minutes to print a document because it's got to go. I'm like, God, try printing a picture with that. You know how
you could walk out of the room, go to the kitchen, make yourself some food, go watch your favorite TV show,
go take a shit. Yep.
And still be like halfway through the first page.
Yep. That's how bad those things were. Like, even when it came to like printing out game cheats, I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna write this shit down because there's just too much to print.
I still do that to this day, where it's like, if I want to like remember like a passcode or something, I might look it up, right?
Yeah.
Even though there's a printer literally like 3 feet away from me, I'll still take a pen, piece of paper, and write it down.
It's quicker.
Sad part is it is still quicker because then your printer's got to warm up.
And you gotta worry if you're out of ink or if you're out of paper or if it damn thing jams.
Yeah.
Oh God, so many Pepperidge Farm memories.
I can replace my TV. I just remembered this.
Yeah.
I have a standard TV with a built-in VCR. Oh man, those were the days, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's in my dad's basement. The only problem is it's tiny.
Let me guess, you got like a 20-inch one, right?
I mean, it's really tiny. I'd be surprised if the screen was even like 5 inches wide.
Oh, you probably got the 13-inch one.
But I could hook stuff up to it. I hooked a PlayStation up to it once upon a time.
I had a 13-inch TV. Actually, I got you beat. Remember those old TV radio combos that they used to come out that ran on D batteries that you would take with you camping and shit?
I think I got you beat even further, and this one actually was when you plugged in. When I was a kid, my room got converted into mine and my brother's room.
Oh, wow.
So there were bunk beds in there made out of wood. Here we go down memory lane again.
Yep.
Same dresser was in the room in the same spot, except they decided to put a black and white TV on top of it. And it was this real tiny thing that was like aimed down at us so we could see it.
Oh,
I mean, you could have fit it right in between both my hands and my fingers would still be touching.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
God damn.
I remember it. Yeah, I do.
Oh, man. Yeah, because I was going to say, because the screen that I had on this, okay, because I had a tube TV that went up around this time. And in transitioning with getting another television, I experimented, and it worked. It actually worked. So we had this it was a radio / TV. The TV screen was maybe 5 inches, and it was in black and white. And luckily it had a port on the back of it where I connected it to my VCR, and I had my Xbox connected to the VCR as well. I'm sitting there up close to a 5-inch black and white screen playing Halo 2. And it worked. Even like I had a buddy of mine over. I was like, "Hey, you want to try split screen on this thing?" It worked, but we couldn't see shit. So
Back in the day, I'm curious. Were you a Channel 3 man or a Channel 4 man?
Channel 3.
Damn straight.
That's how you did things back in the day. Channel 3. Then you got that one channel that's like you or something, and you gotta turn like 70-some clicks, like. and it's like 75% of them damn channels were all fucking snow.
Yeah.
It's like, what channel is it on? 47. There's nothing on there. And then you get to a channel where it's like half snow and half picture. You could sort of hear them, but then you got to adjust the antenna ears and shit.
That's when the youngest was, tribute and had to move the antennas around, get the right picture. And as soon as they got it right, they had to stand there.
I mean, hell, remember Married with Children? Every time a TV show came on Fox, and they're like, Fox viewing positions, like one would hold an antenna up behind the TV. Al would stand next to the lamp, hold the lamp, and hold another antenna, and Peg would hold her arm up holding something.
Yeah.
It's like, why the hell are they doing that? It's like they get better reception that way. Shit, the first time I played Resident Evil, though, was actually on my 13-inch TV, a 13-inch color Sanyo TV. And that thing sat in the corner of my room, and I'm just sitting there, like, up close to it, playing this game. And that was, like, my entertainment center right there. You know, I had this fucking 3.5-foot tall stereo that my uncle gave me. It had a built-in speaker on the bottom, and then you had the stereo console, which was like AM, FM, built-in 8-track. Then it had a little area inside for the turntable. And then on top of that whole thing, I had a VCR, my TV, and depending on where I wanted to sit the PlayStation. Sometimes I set the PlayStation on top of the TV, which was a pain in the ass because the cords would always get in the fucking way of what you're looking at. But I made way with it, and then of course, I would readjust it, later on and move the PlayStation down a little lower or some shit. I set that thing in different goddamn positions to try out, and half of them worked, and half of them didn't. But I know with Resident Evil, the first time I beat it, or actually the first time I witnessed it beaten, I was staying at my grandmother's for a week. This was during the summer of 2000 or 2001. And it was fun because, you know, my uncle, my cousin, and I, we all get together. We would hang out in his bedroom. We would do all kind of shit. We watch fucking movies, listen to music while playing games. We were either playing GoldenEye all the time, or we would switch back and forth between different games. So Resident Evil was always a big one. So, you know, we're sitting there playing Resident Evil 2, you know, we're handing the controller back and forth, you know, taking care of this and that. Even like the funnest part about the game was the fucking sewer with the alligator. And I'm sitting there like, how the fuck do I shoot this son of a bitch? You know, the alligator's fucking chasing you through the damn corridor. And my cousin's like, oh, you remember that tank you seen on the wall when you came in? I'm like, yeah. He's like, go up to it and push the button. And the tank dropped down. I was like, okay, what now? Because I was like, do I stand here and shoot at it? He's like, no, go around the corner, wait till he comes around. I'm like, well, how am I supposed to aim at the tank? And he said, well, he grabs it in his mouth. When he comes around the corner, just shoot at the tank. I was like, oh, okay. And that worked out. And I remember the first time I did that, I had my cousin laughing his ass off. Because I shot the tank, blew up the alligator's head. I walked up to it and I said, heads up. My fucking cousin just started dying laughing and shit. I was like, there's a whole new meaning to heads up. But man, we had so many memories playing that game. Like I can't tell you how many times I've played and beaten it. And even like with the extra modes on the game, which we'll get into here in a little bit. But I remember like, okay, there was even a time where I went down there and I had just got my first laptop. And this was one of those old gray laptops that's like 2.5 inches thick. And it had like a fucking 12-inch screen on it. And your mouse was this little button, this little fucking stiff button in the middle of the keyboard and shit. That was your arrow pointer and shit. And it had a CD-ROM and it ran Windows 98 on it. And James, he had a slew of video games, even some of them that were packed away. You know, he had video games for like NES, SNES, Genesis, PlayStation, 64, but he also had a lot of PC games. And a lot of PC games that I was interested in. And he had a copy of Resident Evil 2 on PC, which was, what was that version called? Oh, shit. I think there's like a special name version for it or something. Let me see. Resident Evil 2 Win 98 PC. Because this was a particular one too. Not that one. There was a Platinum. Yeah, that's what it was called. Resident Evil 2 Platinum. I don't know why they called it Platinum, but I figured out why a little bit, because there was a little trick with the PC version. And I don't know if you ever got a chance to play the PC version.
No, unfortunately, that was one that eluded me.
This one, all right, you know how with the game you would have to beat both scenarios like in certain ways, like you would have to beat the game in like under a certain amount of time with like an S ranking or whatever to unlock certain hidden features like the Force Survivor, Extreme Battle Mode, and all that.
Yeah.
Well, with the PC version, if you pop the disc in, of course, install it, go to the registration editor on the PC, look up the folder and where Resident Evil is installed, and there was a couple files on there. If you changed a couple numbers on there or changed a couple characters and saved it, you had everything unlocked instantly. That was the first thing I did. It's even, oh my god. I believe it's still even on GameFAQs.com, because that's how I figured it out. Of course, once again, going back to the old school dial-up internet, you know? Alright, let's see. Resident Evil 2 PC. At least it should still be on here. Cheats. Let's see. There's the infinite ammo code. Oh god, who? There was the infinite ammo cheat for PS2. I'm pretty sure you know about it, where you go into the settings for the controller, hold R1 and press square 10 times until the word in the center turns red. Because there was that. Let's see. Here we go. Unlock the extreme battle mode for Survivor and Tofu game. Also, it says something in here about, okay, quick access to hard difficulty. So for all this, you would go to the Windows registry, or just type in regedit. Go to the address, hkey_local_machines, software Capcom Resident Evil 2. And on the values, write it on the folders, Gallery 1, Gallery 2, all the way up to Gallery 5. You would go into those and you would put 7 Fs and then save it. After you did that, go to the folder called Special, enter the letter A. Now start the game up, enter the section Special, and have fun. I couldn't believe it. And it worked. I'm like, who had the time to figure this out? That's like the creator. That's like Konami, the guy who created the fucking Konami code. You know, they put that in there as like a test. Nobody was supposed to actually. They weren't supposed to really access it in a sense, but they did, or he put it out there. That's like with this, like the PC version. All you got to do is go into the registry, change a few settings, and you have all the content unlocked. You ain't got to worry about beating the game like 10 times and shit. That's like with this, with the hardest game mode on there. Have you ever played Tofu?
Yeah.
The hardest gameplay of that. Here's like, okay, the easiest way to unlock Tofu, and this is probably the same for the PS1 version. You have
trick to playing Tofu, it's more dodging, less killing.
Yeah, because you only got one knife.
That's part of the reason I've never died in games like that, is because I'm good at dodging. I was good at dodging before they even put a dodge mechanic into Resident Evil 3.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that next week. Oh yeah, because I actually, funny story. I was on Twitter the other day, and somebody had mentioned, oh, they finally put a dodge mechanic in Resident Evil 3. That's nice. I was like, that was already originally in Resident Evil 3.
It just worked a little differently.
Yeah. Like, you had to hold the button, and then when they come up to you, she just automatically would, push them out of the way or dodge.
To time it. Yeah, at the time it just right.
Yep. Let's see. The easiest way to unlock Tofu, and this was always a pain in the ass, and they told you how to do it in the game guide. I actually still have the original game guide for it. It's said to beat Leon A, Claire B, Leon A again, Claire B again, Leon A again, and Claire B again to unlock Tofu. All these games must be done on normal, not easy or arrange. There is a harder way. Oh Christ, the harder way to unlock it. Beat Claire A, B. Let's see, yeah, beat Claire A, Leon B, Claire A, Leon B, Claire A, Leon B again to unlock Tofu. All these games must be done on normal. So because who do you think is easier in the game, Leon or Claire?
I honestly don't know.
It's like that is really a debatable matter right there, because I had people tell me that Claire was easier than Leon. I think I found Leon to be a little more easier in a sense, I guess.
Yeah, they did it differently than what they did with the original Resident Evil, because in the original Resident Evil, Jill was easy mode.
Yep.
And there was no normal. It was either easy or hard. depending on who you played as.
Yep. And the difficulty.
In this one, it didn't seem like it mattered, though.
Yeah, because with this one, I guess it kind of balanced out with the difficulty. Like, I think with Leon, his weapons were a little more firepower than what Claire had. Because you got to figure, with the character models, you don't. I don't think.
They gave her a bow gun.
Yeah, she gets a bow, and Leon gets the shotgun. Which, of course, you can upgrade. I can't remember if you can upgrade the bow, and I don't think you can. I know the shotgun, you get the parts for that about halfway through the game. And even when you get it, like, the shotgun is, like, it's not the worst weapon, but the fire rate is just, like, wow. Like, one shot, and it just, like, shoots you back, and it takes you about 1.5 seconds to, get yourself repositioned and take another shot. And then, of course, they had their, was it an arrange mode on there, I think? Or was it, no, it was rookie mode. They had a rookie mode, I think, later on for the dual. I can't remember if it was for the original or if they just added.
I know the DualShock version had something called arranged mode, and then it also had underneath arranged mode is where you had rookie. And then there's another one. I forget.
Yeah, because, once again...
Actually, no, wait a minute. I think... I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to look at them. I'd have to have a TV here to actually look at them. But... I would think the PlayStation 1 arranged mode was immediately rookie mode.
Yeah, because I'm trying...
The Dreamcast, though, I think has 2 options under arranged.
Okay. Yeah,
because every version of the game that came out had something different with it.
Yeah, because if you remember, rookie mode had the option where you could get the Gallant gun, the rocket launcher, and the submachine gun, and they were already in the chest, and they had infinite ammo.
Yeah, that's what rookie mode was.
Yeah, and apparently there is a way to unlock them in the game. I guess this is like if you play through normal. So it's like for the Gallant gun, you would have to finish a B game setting in under 2.5 hours with a grade of A or B without saving. I actually tried doing that without saving. I did a stream like that. I can't remember if you were there. I know Mike was there. I failed horribly. I went without saving, and I got all the way up to Birkin.
I do that most of the time. That time I just go in, I know I'm in it for the long haul, so I just keep going.
Yep. And I should have taken like a herb or something. I had one on me. I should have healed, but I got cocky and I ended up dying right there, right when I was getting ready to take the last shot.
The best thing that works on Birkin was the Magnum.
Yep. Because I know, like, if I go in there, I'll go in there with the rocket, like 1 or 2 rockets on him, and he's done. But yeah, the Magnum was always the strongest. Well, that was like the second strongest weapon. The first strongest was the rocket. That's if you actually got it open.
Yep.
And of course, to get the rocket launcher, you have to finish an A game in under 2.5 hours with a grade of A or B. And the submachine gun, which I guess is the least favorite, is finish a game in under 3 hours with a grade of A or B. But the thing is, the Gallant gun was a lot more slower with the fire rate because you had to... It took at least like 2 or 3 seconds for that thing to warm up and actually start firing. Whereas with the submachine gun, all you do is just aim and fire.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then, of course, here's the cheat for the PC version for infinite ammo. You just go to your item screen. Now, the way this works, it's funky. Like, when you go to the item screen, you got to scroll to, like, the very bottom where the last inventory item slot would be. Because you would have to enter up, up, down, down, left, right, aim in order to get infinite ammo. And
you know what would be nice?
What's that?
After they release Resident Evil 3, the remake, right?
Mm-hmm.
It would be nice if Capcom would put on Steam the original Resident Evil 2 for PC and Resident Evil 3 for PC.
That would be nice, yeah.
I don't know why they never did.
I'm gonna...
Almost every other Resident Evil's there.
Except for the originals, yeah. I think what it has something to do with the coding. It's very technical and confusing. Like, I've watched a couple videos in the past. Like, why don't
But as old as those games are now, it should be easy.
Exactly.
That's what I'm getting at. They're old technology. It should be easy. I mean, hell, people put emulators on there all the time that run on computers. Why can't you?
Well, they claim it has something to do with the coding with older games that doesn't really compute well with newer computers. But there's a lot of old games that are...
Yeah, we got Resident Evil 2 and 3 on the GameCube.
Yep. And then
something that was more powerful than the original PlayStation.
Yep. And then you got
one mini disc.
Mm-hmm.
So what's their excuse?
Exactly. Well, that's like, even with a lot of older games, like, a lot of people have worked with the coding, and now a lot of the older games are ran through DOSBox, and DOSBox is a pretty good DOS emulator for games that run from like very, very early Windows on up to, I want to say, Windows 2000 and XP, because the coding in there is like so different than the coding right now. That's like, if you ran an old computer game right now on your PC, and in your mind you're thinking this game is going to run phenomenal, like it's going to run fast as shit, you know, but the graphics ain't going to be, they're not going to look that great because graphics, you know, that's for their time. But you would think a game like that would run pretty smooth. Not always the case.
I had problems with Sonic CD on here.
Yeah.
Because I guess for some reason they tried to put it in the normal format that my TV would do it.
Mm-hmm.
And the game would boot and all, but it was slow as hell. And then I figured out what the problem was, and I went in and I changed the setting, right? Because apparently it doesn't even like 1080p. I had to put it down in 720p.
Yep.
And it works fine. So it's like, even though they have issues with stuff like that, it's like, it is possible to downgrade the display for that particular game.
Mm-hmm. It all has something to do with the coding of the software. Like, today's modern operating systems and PCs, they don't recognize that coding, so they need something that would kind of force it in a sense to where it's mimicking, as in, like, say, like it's an emulator in a sense that you can run on PC now. Like, if I open...
all games on a PC are technically emulators.
Pretty much. Like, I got a few old games on here right now that I can play, even though some of them will have an issue. And then, of course, there's some that I used to play, but now they just don't work for whatever reason. Like you say, if you go into the settings, the properties of the software, you could downgrade it to like 256 colors, which is the minimum, that would run at a minimum of Windows 95 and use up maybe like 2 gigs of memory or 2 megs of memory or whatever, and it'll play. So that's one way to get around it. But yeah, that's why I was saying earlier, like, I wonder how Resident Evil 2 would run on the PC right now. Like, if I were to get a copy of it and try to install it, I probably can. If I'm pretty sure I can go online and find a copy of it. I just wonder how it would run on the PC if I were to install it. Like, I'm pretty sure it'd be like, oh, this software can't run because it's missing a DLL file, you know, or something like that. I don't want Windows 97. There was never a Windows 97. Let's see.
Yeah, but at that point, all you gotta do is look up what DLL file it's missing, go find it, and replace it.
Yep, I actually got a website for that, too. So, Resident Evil 2 Platinum is going for $50 on Amazon.
Oh, that's nothing. That's nothing. Look up Resident Evil 2 for the Dreamcast.
Oh, great. Let me see. All right, so the highest for the PC version, if you want it in really good condition, you go as high as 65 or 70. Let's see. Where are you at? I'd probably have to go to eBay for this. Yeah, it's not even on Amazon. Like, let's see. Amazon. Holy shit. Amazon's got Dino Crisis for Dreamcast. $64.95.
Trust me, they have Resident Evil 2 as well.
Resident Evil 3 for GameCube. $139.95. God damn.
I already own a copy of that.
Oh, here we go. I'm sorry, there it is. There's the Dreamcast version. Holy fuck.
Now you know why I don't own a legit copy of it yet.
Complete with mint case, includes case, artwork manual, 2 game disc, mint condition. $300. God damn.
Now I could get it for close to $50-some, and it's just the discs.
Yeah, but for that you would want to go. If you're collecting, you might as well go the whole way. You know.
Christ, we paid $40 for Resident Evil 3.
And then here's the N64 version. You got 4 collectible. The highest one is $64.99.
I know I can get one for. I can get it just the cartridge for like $24.
I remember when I got the cartridge. I got it from GameStop. Which GameStop did I get it from?
I care more about having the game. I don't care about the cases.
Yeah.
I make cases.
I think
my whole PlayStation library is in DVD cases right behind my PS2 games.
Yeah.
Because if they do come with their case, I preserve the case because they're so fragile.
Exactly.
You know, I put the discs into DVD cases. I make new box art for them, and there you go.
Yeah. I remember when I first got the cartridge, the 64 version. I think now I know I got a good memory on a lot of things. I can't remember which. It was either GameStop in Governor Plaza or the GameStop at Marley Station Mall. But I did get it, and I was thinking I was going to get 2 cartridges, but I was surprised that they fit all that data on 1 cartridge, and there was like very little load time too. Like,
they didn't put the whole game on there.
Oh, they didn't?
No, I'm pretty sure it's only the first scenario for Claire and Leon. I don't think there is a scenario B.
Actually, there is a scenario B, because I played through the whole thing.
I forget what it is, but something's different about it where it doesn't have everything.
They might have taken off one of the special modes. I know they had... I think they took off the Extreme Battle Mode, if I remember. I know they had the Fourth Survivor. I believe they had Tofu.
Not all of them have the Extreme Battle Mode either.
That's true. That's probably what got taken off to save
Each
space.
version has something different.
Yeah. And then here's the
This
other...
is why I've gone after each version.
Yep.
If all versions were the same, why the hell would I be collecting them? Know what I mean?
Exactly. And speaking of which...
there's a huge difference between the Resident Evil 3s that I told you about.
Yep. Yeah, because the costumes. Yeah, we'll talk about that one next week. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of which, here's a copy for GameCube on Amazon. Buy brand new. $154.98.
I know what I'm missing off the GameCube.
What's that?
I'm missing the GameCube version of Code Veronica.
Oh, they had one for that?
Yep. I used to own it years ago.
Huh. I can't remember. I don't remember that one. Huh. Resident Evil Code Veronica.
I'm missing very few Resident Evils, though. I'm missing, I think, Dead Aim. I'm missing the first Outbreak. Hell, I just recently got my hands on a copy of Resident Evil DS for the Nintendo DS.
That one is very rare. I had that twice. Like, the second time I found it, I got lucky. Was at the GameStop in Governor Plaza, and it was in one of them cases where they had the Game Boy and the DS games all in there, and I saw it, and it went for like $30, and I was like, I want that.
I only paid 20 for it.
That is a very rare find right there. Like, I remember when I bought that game, I was so psyched for it, and I liked it. It's not the best, but for a Resident Evil game at the time on the go, especially if I went to work and I was wanting to play some Resident Evil while I was sitting at work, that was a good find. And then, of course, like 2 months later, you walk into Walmart and you don't even see it anywhere. Like, what happened to this game? It was, it came out, like, I didn't understand. And then years later, find out, yeah, this was a very rare game to find. Holy shit! Yeah, they got they got Code Veronica on here for $100, but this is for discs only. But then they got the official USA version, comes complete with game, case, and manual. That's $95. So that's the highest you'll go for that. I didn't even think they had that one.
Yep.
Because I got the PS2 version. And actually, yeah, since you mentioned it, I do have Dead Aim, and I got both Outbreaks over here. I was actually playing Outbreak 2 earlier.
Yeah, I gotta get my hands on the first Outbreak and Dead Aim again.
Yeah.
Used to piss the old roommate off with Dead Aim. Because he'd be using a gun con, right? And he's having a hell of a time, right? I never used a gun con a day in my life. I'm using it like it's a real gun. Right, but then I started really pissing him off because I would holster it next to my side, and as soon as I'd enter a room with zombies in it, I'd fling it up like a gunslinger and just go right through, get headshots on everything, and then reload.
Oh shit! Oh man, yeah, I never got a chance to try out the was with the game com. I think
I have a gun con here.
Yeah, because there was a few of them. There was the Dark Side.
I had a standard TV that it would have worked on.
Yeah.
Fucking TV.
I don't know. Try the old light bulb trick. Remember that shit with the NES gun?
Oh god.
The myth where you stick the thing, stick it to a light bulb and shoot, and maybe that'll work.
I really do hate the fact that the gun cons don't work on modern TVs.
Yeah, and I think it's because the modern TVs are backlit. They don't really put out that glow, I guess, that the gun cons can identify.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't sense it in a way. That's why, like, when you get to, like, the Super Nintendo, and it had that special sensor for the what was it? That super whatever the fuck it was called. The thing they used in the Super Mario Brother movie.
Are you talking about the Super Scope?
Yeah. Because that thing had the sensor for it.
Yeah, that's right. It had the thing it set on top of your TV.
Mm-hmm. Oh man. Let's see, a little brief history real quick into Resident Evil 2. Of course, Resident Evil 2 came out January 28th, 1998. I know we're a little bit late into it, but hey, it's whatever. It's good memories with Resident Evil. So, of course, this is the sequel to the first game. The first game came out in 1996. Resident Evil 2 received critical acclaim with praise for its atmosphere, setting, graphics, audio, scenario, and overall gameplay, as well as other improvements over the original game, but with some criticism toward its controls, voice acting, and certain gameplay elements. Of course, the controls were the tank controls brought back from the first game, but I want to say...
I got a game that's got worse voice acting than even the first Resident Evil.
I probably have it too.
And it's on the Dreamcast.
What game is that?
The Ring Terror's Realm.
Trying to think if
I did not make it through the first cutscene before busting out laughing at how horrible the voice acting is. I was like, oh my god, it just made the original Resident Evil look like it was flawless. Let's put it that way.
Oh shit, try out Sword of the Berserk Guts Rage. That one has some hilarious moments there with their voice acting. That was a really good hack and slash game from Bandai Namco, but the cutscenes, there was like a shit ton of cutscenes. It felt like playing fucking Metal Gear Solid 4. There was like very little action, but most of the game is like a fucking movie in a way.
Yeah, I know, and I'm a huge Metal Gear fan. I was kind of disappointed of how much of a movie it was, though.
Yeah, no, because I want to play the game. I don't want to watch. If I want to watch a movie, I'll watch a movie.
Right.
But yeah, let's see. RE2 is also the best-selling Resident Evil game on a single platform, or for a single platform, shipping 5.77 million copies on PlayStation, combining it with the original release on the PlayStation with the DualShock release. I think, yeah, that's the one I had, was the DualShock release. Of course, it was also ported to Windows PC, Windows 98, Nintendo 64, Dreamcast, and GameCube. And a modified 2.5D version was released on the Gamecom. And I've only seen like maybe a 5-second video of that. And it was just, how could they butcher a game like this to put it on a handheld like that? And of course, the story of Resident Evil 2 was retold and built upon its several later games, and it also has been adapted into a variety of licensed works. And it also had a remake that just came out over a year ago that is phenomenal. It's a very phenomenal game, with the remake as well. And of course the game, and we'll get more into Resident Evil 3 next week, because that one is sort of a how would you... It's a sequel, but it also takes place during Resident Evil 2 in a different timeline, but it takes place around the same time as some of the similar events. So we'll get into that one next week, because that's going to be a very interesting one. And of course, this time, like as with the first game had the outbreak of the T-virus, and it was sort of contained in this mansion that both these STARS teams go in and investigate, and they learn who's behind it, who released it and all, and they attempted to stop it, by destroying all the monsters, quote unquote killing Weskerov, but he comes back later on. So you would think everything's contained, everything's good. Not quite. Now Resident Evil comes, the outbreak hits the city, and now you got zombies on the streets, and most of the game takes place in the police station. Then it leads you to the sewers, and then to an underground lab, which is usually the basis for games like this. Like, you never stay in one setting for too long. You got to advance, of course, but the most popular setting is the police station. And of course, this time around, you got the G virus, which is created by William Birkin, who worked for did he work? Yeah, he worked for Umbrella. And then there was a special then there's a special ops team that was coming in to extract it in part of the story. And of course, ended up being gunned down and having only one vial of it left, while the extraction team grabbed the rest. He injects himself with the G virus, which horribly mutates him, and he ends up killing off the extraction team and anybody else that goes lurking down there in the in the sewers and all. And then of course you got his wife Annette, who's looking for their daughter, who you learn is their daughter, Sherry Birkin, who's scared to death, and she's running around a police station, who Claire comes across at one point in the game. And then you got other side characters like Chief Irons, Chief of Police. You know, he was a very dirty, corrupt police chief with ties to Umbrella. You got Ada Wong, who was supposedly looking for her boyfriend. You know, while you know, I'm just trying to go off without even paraphrasing or even reading this whole thing right here. But yeah, Ada Wong, she was like what would you say, like a double agent sort of for Umbrella?
Kind of.
Yeah, because they're all after this virus, and it's like it's like high market price, you know, on the market for the viruses, and also she's trying to extract it herself. And then, you know, you got other subtle characters in there like Marvin. Who could forget poor Marvin? When that motherfucker turned purple when you come back in that goddamn office later on, I was like, oh man. Marvin,
In
you
the
went...
remake, they should have gave him one of the what if scenarios.
Oh, I know. Well, let's see. So I think we covered all the main characters in there. But of course, you know, Leon and Claire are the two main characters that come in. Claire Redfield, she comes into town looking for her brother Chris, who is, you know, she learns that he's off on a certain mission over in Europe, and that comes later. There'll be like 2 episodes from now where we'll talk about Code Veronica. So we learn about that a little bit. And then you got Leon Kennedy, who is a rookie on the force of the RPD, his first day on the job, and of course, what's the first task for him to take care of? a fucking police station full of zombies and fucking monsters and shit. I'd be like, man, if that was my first day on the job, I'd say, fuck this, I quit. Ain't nobody gonna fucking care. Everybody's dead. I fucking quit. I fucking put my badge on the desk and say, here you go. Have fun. That would be it. But yeah, there's like this whole story all comes together, you know, these two people trying to survive and escape out of the city, trying to find answers to everything, and they stumble on something much grander, bigger monsters, even newer creatures. Like, for me, when I first played this game, like, the Licker was the biggest fucking asshole in this game to me. And there was just so many of them that popped up at different times. And if you didn't watch it, or if you didn't have the proper weapon to take them out, it's just like they leap at you one swipe and your head's gone. What
was worse about the Licker is there was 2 versions of it.
Yeah.
There was a blue poisonous one as well.
Blue poisonous one. I'd have to go back and play it again. I can't remember that being that one.
Yeah, there was blue poisonous ones.
Huh. I probably didn't notice because I was always too busy with shooting with the rocket launcher. That's probably why I didn't really notice it.
I'll do it.
Like, I know exactly where their spawn points are, and I'll just, like, if I'm... depending on who I'm playing as and what difficulty, it's I'll either have the Magnum or the rocket. Just one shot and they're done. Like, I just didn't bother sticking around. I just said, fuck it. So it was those things for me. But then when you get to Scenario B, which is a lot harder, then you got that fucker Mr. X. Oh, Christ. And of course, you know, there's a lot of X gonna give it to you memes out there right now because of the remake.
Mm-hmm.
But that motherfucker, he scared the shit out of me. Like, there was that one part, I'm pretty sure it hit you too. You go in that room, that one particular room, which was the camera room, and you light the candles on the wall. And not only does he come bashing through that wall right there, and you take him out, but then when you go around the other outside of the hall to leave, and he comes bashing through that other fucking wall out of nowhere.
Yeah, I know. It's like the Kool-Aid man.
Oh yeah, pun intended. They had some pretty good. I think they were. if I can remember. No, they couldn't. No, they weren't the only two new enemies they had. I mean, they brought back the zombies. They had the zombie dogs. The spiders. Well, the spiders didn't really have too big of a role in this one like they did in the first one. Like, there was only maybe, 3 spots where the spiders were at, and they were all pertaining to the sewer.
Yeah.
And of course, you got the zombie dogs. Like, yeah, fuck them zombie dogs. They didn't they didn't have the hunters in there. Yeah, because I guess they figure, they're introducing another new enemy, the liquor. The liquor's going to pretty much do what the hunter does anyway, swipe at you with its claws, and that's it.
Then you also had those plant
those things.
creatures.
Yeah, those fuckers. They poison you. As soon as that shutter
there was
opens.
a giant moth.
Yeah, I remember the moth. The moth didn't do a whole lot unless you stuck around in there, and then he would come at you. Me, I would just usually either, if I'm going in there with like the flamethrower or the rocket launcher, I just like, nah, I ain't dealing with your ass today. And they had so many. Let me see. I don't even think they have a list of the enemies on here, because I'm trying to fucking remember all of them. I think we actually got all of them, enemy-wise. Now, I'll tell you, like, when it comes to video game soundtracks, this is probably number 1 for me when it comes to video game soundtracks. And I'm usually not a big fan of them. I don't listen to a lot of video game soundtracks. But when it comes to games like this, like, I want to say, like, within the top 3, it's got to be Resident Evil 2, Spyro the Dragon, and Dark Cloud when it comes to the score of these games. And the score for this one, it was just terrifying, and it had its moments, especially pertaining to certain characters, like with Sherry. It had those moments where it feels like it's a moment of loneliness, and like you're lost. And there's like a moment of like you've lost somebody, like you're losing your parents or something, because of course both parents die in the game, in a sense. So it has that feeling of dread, that terror. It just fit perfectly. Like this was a phenomenal soundtrack to the game. Especially my favorite, and I'm pretty sure anybody else would say, the music for the main hall in the police station. Like, that is the most iconic piece of music right there within the whole franchise. Let's see. So, as you were mentioning earlier, Resident Evil 1.5. So, during the development of RE2 began 1 month after the completion of RE1, which was in 1996. The first footage shown at the V-Jump Festival in 96 in July. This build, which was later dubbed Resident Evil 1.5 by Shinji Mikami, differed drastically from the final version. Its plot followed the same basic outline and featured a zombie outbreak in Raccoon City 2 months after the events of the first game. However, Umbrella had already been closed as a consequence of their illegal experiments. The development team sought to retain the level of fear from the original game and introduced 2 new characters who lacked experience with terrifying situations. Of course, one of them was Leon Kennedy, largely identical to his persona in the final build, and then you got Elza Walker, a college student and motorcycle racer vacationing in Raccoon City, her hometown. Actually, there's an Easter egg in the remake where it's a special costume for Claire Redfield that you can unlock or purchase, which was the Elza Walker costume. Unlike the final version, the character paths did not cross, and each character had 2 support partners instead of 1. Leon received help from a fellow police officer, Marvin, and researcher Linda, an early version of Ada, while Elsa was aided by Sherry Birkin and John, who appeared in Resident Evil 2 as gun shop owner Robert Kendu. Huh. They changed John to Robert Kendu. I would have thought, because John was actually the guy that Ada was looking for in the final build, who was her boyfriend.
Right.
Real world examples influence character designs by artists Isao Hishi and what was that? I'm just going to pronounce the last name, Shimagama. For example, Ohishi based Leon on his Bloodhound, and Annette Birkin was modeled after actress Jodie Foster. The police department was smaller and had a more modern and realistic design. There were more encounters with surviving policemen, such as Superior Officer of Leon called Roy. The number of polygons used for enemy models were far lower, allowing many zombies to appear on the screen. Yeah, because you got to figure the hardware at the time couldn't process a lot of imagery. So I guess, the lower resolution of whatever images are on the screen, the more you can have. That's kind of like games like with Assassin's Creed, which what would have been, I think, one of the Prince of Persias that they wanted to do, and it ended up becoming Assassin's Creed, and they couldn't put it on like PS2 and the original Xbox because the hardware, with what they wanted to do, they wanted to add several characters, they wanted to add a lot of models at one time on the screen, but the hardware couldn't do it, so they ended up putting it on Xbox 360, and of course that's when Assassin's Creed was made. But I can see what they did here. That way they can have more, because if you notice, like when you're playing these games, like they only allow maybe 3 or 4 zombies on the screen at a time, at the most.
Yeah,
I think
normally.
Yeah. And then, of course, when you go to shoot at them and they're all bulked up, you could tell there's a little bit of lag and slowdown on them, too. Let's see. The game employed dynamic music and frequently applied alterations to the pre-rendered backgrounds in response to the gameplay events. The playable characters could use equipment such as protective clothes that enhance their defense and enable them to carry more items. The character models were altered by costume change and by damage received from the enemies. I think that would have been a little bit interesting right there if they kept that. But then, of course, the final version, I don't even know how I would even skim this. But basically, I guess they pretty much just They scrapped it and they started all new, it's
They even scrapped some enemies.
Yep. So this actually did push the game back by a couple years. So in that meantime, while they were redoing Resident Evil 2, they put out 2 other versions of Resident Evil 1, which was the director's cut, and then you had the director's cut, which was DualShock, and of course they had differences too. And then in different countries, certain versions had scenes cut from the FMVs, and then there's scenes that actually had scenes that were added and they stayed in there, which were like a little bit more gorier, I guess, or yeah, it has something to do with it. Like it was somebody's death in that FMV. It was one of the, I think it was like Forrest. No, it wasn't Forrest. I forgot who it was. I think it was Joseph. Like his death was a little bit more gruesome and
Yeah, it was.
yeah, I think it was like I can't remember if it was like the American version or the European version. It was like it had that added to it. And then of course, they stopped the FMVs, and then of course like the cutscenes in the game were basically cutscenes with the character models. I mean, I don't know. I did kind of like the FMVs in a way. They were like little mini movies. They got these no talent actors. I guess they're like no talent actors at the time. To film these videos. They were probably like, okay.
They didn't even know what the hell they were filming.
That's what I was getting to. Also, because I remember that. I remember somebody saying that they were just filming it. They didn't know what the hell they were filming it for. I think they found out later on what they did with it. Let's see. So there was several changes that have been made between the regional releases of RE2. This is after the final product came out. So the North American version contains more violent game over screens, which were removed from the Japanese Biohazard 2. Resident Evil 2 was also made more difficult than its Japanese equivalent to prevent rentals from affecting U.S. sales. Was made more difficult. I don't remember it being more difficult than RE1. Like, I thought it was pretty easy. Like, I mean, yeah, there were some moments where I was like, okay, how do I get past this? How do I do that? I don't recall it being too much difficult.
Yeah.
But like, I already said my piece about the music. What do you think about the music in the game?
It's on par for what it was.
Yeah. I know it's something that I usually listen to when I'm got Spotify up nowadays. And then of course, like we were talking, there's the releases and ports, the different ports for RE2. So it came out on PlayStation in 1998, January. It was also reissued and ported to other systems, often gaining new features in the process. The first re-release of was the DualShock version, which incorporated support for the vibration and analog control of the PlayStation's DualShock controller. Other additions included a new unlockable minigame called Extreme Battle Mode. Okay, that's when it first came in. That's when those features came in, was the DualShock version. So that's the version I started out with. I didn't play the original RE2. I started out on the DualShock version because that had the Extreme Battle Mode. Okay, Rookie Mode did come in on the DualShock version. Okay, so Rookie Mode, yeah, enabled the player to start the main story with a powerful weapon that featured an infinite ammo. The Japanese release of the DualShock version contained a USA version mode based on the difficulty level of RE2's Western versions. So that's there you go. That's why it was a lot easier for me, because like we were talking about earlier, they had the rookie mode on the game with the infinite ammo on the certain weapons. That's why it probably was more difficult, because I mean, I didn't play the original release of it. I didn't get into it until like the DualShock version. For the DualShock version, that's when they added all the extra modes, like the Extreme Battle Mode, the Force Survivor, and all the infinite ammo with the powerful guns. Let's see, the DualShock version served as the basis for the majority of ports, such as Windows 9X based PC CD-ROM version, Resident Evil 2 Platinum. Aside from retaining all previously added features, the PC version can run at higher resolutions. Because I think, at that time, they ran up to, what was it, 800 by 600, I think, was the standard?
Pretty sure any games on a computer can run at higher resolution.
Yeah, especially with unlocked frame rate. Well, that's the nowadays thing.
Well, let's put it this way. The Resident Evil game that I was playing, Operation Raccoon City, right? I have it on the PS3, beat it on there, and then I got it on Steam because I had other Resident Evil games. It looks completely different on the PC than it does on the PS3.
Oh yeah, it's night and day, because
yeah,
you figure console is basically set limited hardware that runs a game, whereas with a PC, I guess the more higher up you go with the hardware, the better something's going to look and operate.
Right.
Yeah, because consoles, that's why people prefer PC gaming over console, because PC, you can up your specs. You have no limitations with PC, whereas with a console, they have a preset hardware specification. And back then, like, there was developers that were making games that would push a console to its limits. Like, let's say I can't even think of what actually pushed the PlayStation 1 to its limits. But there was games out there that did certain things, like sliding off a little bit, like Resident Evil Survivor. Like Resident Evil.
I have that.
Yep, I beat it twice. That game's actually pretty damn easy.
I have a funny story about it because everybody doesn't like that game, and I just accept it for what it is.
Same here.
Apparently, the game didn't like itself because I beat it once, right?
Yeah.
And then I shut down the system and I went to take disc out. I pushed the thing to release the disc. The disc popped up and immediately snapped in half.
Oh, wow.
So I now have another copy that I'm never going to play.
Oh, God.
That way, hopefully, it doesn't self-destruct.
I never heard of that happen. Damn. Yeah,
I had witnesses to it. All I did was push down when the center part for the PS1 to release the disc, right?
Yeah.
Disc popped up and immediately fell into two pieces.
Jesus Christ.
You didn't even hear a snap, nothing. It just fell in half.
And the thing, I thought that was it. It seemed hard at the time because there's like several areas in the game where you're coming across Mr. X and shit. But
well, it's more arcade style.
Yeah, and that's originally what Resident Evil was supposedly going to be, but they didn't know how they could make it like that. So I guess that's the reason why they made the first one the way it did. And then, even though Survivor to a lot of people wasn't the best in the franchise, I liked it for what it was. It was interesting. It tried something new. It took a game that was already wildly popular and it put that first person feel into it. It wasn't a light gun game, but it was first person. And I feel like they did a decent job with it, even though the story was a little diluted and it was a little off track. But then again, I guess you don't want to continue a franchise using the same characters over and over, just like add new characters to it, in the same setting, but just somebody else dealing with it. And it was an interesting game. It took me not even an hour and a half to beat it. It was that easy. Like the first time I beat it, I used Game Shark codes, and I couldn't believe how fast it was. Like how fast it took me to beat the game. Like I think it was like an hour and 10 minutes. I was like, that was a damn short game. And then of course the second time I beat it, I didn't have a Game Shark. I played it on PS2, and it took me an hour and a half to beat it. I was like, no, that was a cinch. And then, of course, like the rest of the games in the series, they continued with Code Veronica. Well, actually, Code Veronica came out before Survivor. And then you had RE4, which, came out on GameCube, and they tried out new mechanics that worked out for everybody. But then that first-person perspective did make a return back to Resident Evil 7, and everybody praised it. It was the best thing since sliced bread, and it was a phenomenal game and all. But I'm like, hey, remember back when they did it with Survivor? But that's the one game that nobody fucking talks about. But then again, it's like,
a lot of people don't like Operation Raccoon City.
Yeah, but I know, and I enjoyed it. Yeah, same here.
Because I knew what to expect from it when it was coming out.
Yeah, and I couldn't wait for it to come out.
Yeah.
Let's see. So I mean, that's what I figured. Like at the time, I figured that's what sort of pushed the PS1 to its limits for me was Survivor. You got those games that would do that. Yeah, going back to because the PC version of RE2, because we were talking about higher resolutions. There was also data gallery that was added to the main menu, which allowed players to view movies, rough sketches, illustrations, 3D. That was the other thing the PC version had for this, was you can, unlock, or you can view all the movies, the cutscenes, if you want to play the cutscenes back from certain areas. You had rough sketches of the character models, illustrations and stuff. Let's see. In February 06, a Japan exclusive Windows XP compatible PC DVD re-release was published. Oh, I forgot about that. They did re-release it. So we do. Yeah, there is a version of the PC version you could probably get, and it should work. It included high quality FMVs encoded at a resolution of 640 by 480 pixels. And then we got the Dreamcast version, which is what you have. Keeps the additions from the original PC version and incorporates real-time display of the character's condition on the VMU peripheral, or that little memory card. I like that too, because I had a copy of it, and I liked the player's health that would be up on there, and I think you could pull up how much ammo you got left in your gun and shit. The Japanese edition of the Dreamcast port was given the subtitle Value Plus and came out with a playable demo for Code Veronica. Because at the time...
So, technically, the Dreamcast version is the PC version.
Yeah, in a way, yeah.
Huh.
That's why you got all the those little extras on there, too. Let's see. An unmodified port of the DualShock version was released on the GameCube. The initial PlayStation version, of course, was re-released on the Japanese PlayStation Network in 2007, while the service's North American counterpart received the DualShock version 2 years later. So we never got the fucking the original release of it. We got the DualShock version, which everybody's comfortable with. That sucks. I would have tried out the original version of it. And then you got the 64, which differs most from the other releases, as it is one of the very few games to be released for the console to have FMVs, overcoming the limited storage space on a cartridge. The PlayStation version had 2 CD-ROMs of up to 700 megabytes per disc, was faithfully replicated using unique enhancements on a 64 megabyte Nintendo 64 game pack. What the fuck's a megabyte anymore? We're up to fucking terabytes, and what the hell's gonna come after a terabyte now? It's like, what the hell's a megabyte? Isn't that a fucking document file? Nah. I mean, if you want to get more technical, go all the way back to kilobytes. Remember when we were using those floppy disks? Fucking 3.5 or 5.25. Audio and video assets had to be more aggressively and creatively compressed, using novel techniques that shift the burden more toward the console's high real-time processing power. That was another subtle difference with the 64 version, if you ever get a copy of it, was the audio. The audio, like it does say here, the audio sounds more compressed, kind of muffled a little bit. So you could definitely tell there is a big subtle difference with the audio on the 64 version. Over the course of 12 months and with a budget of $1 million, RE2 was ported to the console by a team led by 9 full-time and 1 part-time personnel from Angel Studios. I remember that. Further help was provided by 10 staff from Capcom Production Studio 3 and Factor 5. This version offers features that were not included on any other system. And I remember this too, such as alternate costumes, the ability to adjust the degree of violence, and change the color of blood. That's right, because when you go into it, you can select what character you want it, the difficulty, and the blood color. You can have red, blue, or green blood. I was like, do you want your zombies to bleed green or blue? There was a randomizer to place items differently during each playthrough and a more responsive first-person control scheme. Additionally, this port features 16 new in-game documents known as the X-Files, written by Tetsuro Oyama. I remember that too. I remember getting a magazine from the library. It wasn't Game Informer. It was one of those early game. I think it was like Game Pro, and it had a particular guide in there to show you where all these files were in the 64 port, and you get them between scenario A and scenario B. And what they were just extra documents that gave a little bit more lore to the backstory of what happened. And these files, you could find them in such obscure places. Like, if you remember how scenario B starts out, and before you hit that first guard shack to get the key to open the door, on the street there's one of those hot dog vendor machines. And in the 64 version, you will walk up to that, and there's a document there. But if you go there with any other version, you're not going to find anything. But there's a document there on the 64 version. Hidden throughout the 4 scenarios, they review new information about the series lore and connect the story of Resident Evil to those of the other installments, including some that hadn't even been released yet at that time. The 64 version adjusts its display resolution depending on the number of polygon models currently on the screen and support the console's expansion pack accessory for the maximum resolution of 680 by 480 during gameplay. Other visual enhancements included smooth character animations and sharper perspective corrected textures for the 3D models. That's another subtle difference with that version. If you play the PS2 version right now and you see how pixelated that is, the 64 version smooths out those character models so they're not as pixelated. They're more polygonal than they are pixelated, so you don't have all those ugly pixels staring at you. Other visual enhancements, yeah, I just read that. The 64 version is the only one to use surround sound, with the soundtrack converted to Dolby Surround by Chris, whatever the fuck his last name is, I'm not even pronounce that, Rudolph Stember and Thomas Angle. The team reworked the sound set from the ground up to provide each instrument with a higher sample rate than on the PlayStation, thus resulting in higher quality music. Some features from the other enhanced ports based on the DualShock version do not appear in the 64 version, such as the Extreme Battle Mode. That's what, yeah, I mentioned that earlier. So the Extreme Battle Mode was cut from that. In 2018, Eurogamer called it one of the most ambitious and impressive console ports of all time, which it was, and that was one of the most sought-after versions aside from the Dreamcast, because of how well it played and how beautiful it looked compared to the PS2 version. And then, not PS2 version, PS1 version. Ugh. And apparently there was a port of it on Sega Saturn. It was developed eternally at Capcom at the time, but technical difficulties led to its cancellation in October 98. Okay. So they were making a Sega Saturn version, but it was canceled. I mean, I don't know why they would make a version of it since the Dreamcast was like right there. I
think it's because they had the original Resident Evil on there.
Yep, that too. I gotta find a copy of that one as well. And then of course we got Tiger Electronics released a sprite-based 2.5D version of the game for for their Game Com handheld in late '98. It included only Leon's story path and removed several of the original game's core features. Of course it did. It was very limited for what it was. In February 2013, an unfinished build of Resident Evil 1.5 leaked on the internet. In Italy, Resident Evil 2 was temporarily banned in 1999 following criticism from political organization, was it Movimento Diritti Civili, or the Civil Rights Movement, for its realistic depiction of violence, with law enforcement agency Guardia di Finanza season over 5,500 unsold copies. After Sony Computer Entertainment asked for a re-examination of the seizure decree, the ban was lifted a few months later. So we learned some interesting things with the other port releases there. Like some things I forgot all about what was on the Dreamcast version. But yeah, the 64 version, actually, when I looked online, that went for a little bit more cheaper price than the Dreamcast version. So it's I guess it's a more common, but more people prefer it because of the enhancements with the sound and the video. Let's see. I don't know if I can think of anything more that I would say about the PS2 version and all. I mean, I've played pretty much all of them except for the GameCube and the Gamecom version as well. I will never touch the fucking Gamecom version. Like, I don't even know why that thing was even fucking made to begin with. But since you own, let's see, you own 3 versions of the game. Like what can you tell about, you know, those 3 versions? Like, is there anything that you noticed that is subtle, or is there anything that you like a little bit more, differentiating from
Not really. They're all practically the same to me.
Yeah. I mean, then again, like, some of them could be like missing like one or the other, like one little thing that the other ones didn't have.
Right.
Let's see, reception. I mean, well, let's see. I mean, what can you say about the reception of the game? I mean, it did pretty well. You know, PSM gave it a 5 out of 5. IGN was like 9.3 out of 10. That was all PlayStation. Looks like PlayStation had actually, the Dreamcast looks like it was kind of mediocre in a couple magazines, but it had a better rating on Game Master than the other ports did. And there was like 5 different port versions. You had the PlayStation, PC, 64, GameCube, and Dreamcast. And of course, you know, Dreamcast was like another gen and a half away from when it originally released. Now, as I said earlier, there was a remake, and this has been a wide thing that went on for like so many years before the remake actually came out. People were actually making their own homebrew versions of Resident Evil 2. Like, what would Resident Evil 2 look like in Unreal Engine? You know, what would it look like, you know, modernized graphics? People were pushing Capcom to remake the game. And then I think, what was it, 2015 or 2016 when they finally announced that they were actually doing it?
I can't remember.
It was around one of those, because the guy that announced it, he had a shirt on, I think, that saying Resident Evil 2 or something. Yeah, because that's when they announced it. Because I remember talking about it around that time. And then of course the game finally comes out 2019, last January, and it was phenomenal. Yeah, released January 25th, 2019. On PS4, Xbox One, and Windows. And it goes by, they use in their own engine now. Capcom's got their RE engine, which they put into place when they did Resident Evil 7, which was another phenomenal game. And they replaced the tank controls, so you ain't gotta worry about the tank controls or the fixed camera angles. How am I gonna word this? What would you say you like more about either or, like comparing the original to the remake. What would you say you would favor more out of Resident Evil 2 between the two games?
Well, the voice acting was better.
Yeah, that. I know they upped the difficulty quite a bit with the remake. I mean, if you think Resident Evil 2 like was very horrifying, like they reinvented that horror with this remake. Like when it comes to Mr. X, like what I liked about the original was the fact that yes, you had scenario A and B, and you, depending on the character you play as, you know, there's not different timelines, but the way the paths are crossed are different, especially with the side characters you come across in a way. Like they were both different. Whereas with the remake, they had their subtle differences, but it almost felt like it ended in the same way, depending on the scenario you played as, in a way, I guess I could say. So it's like there was those little differences, but it felt like in the end it ended the same, which I think, like, when it comes to the scenario base of the games, I think for me I would prefer the original over the remake, because at least with the original, like it felt like a new surprise in a way. Like, okay, if I start out scenario A with Leon, and then have Claire come in with scenario B, and then you switch it up and you play Claire scenario A and Leon scenario B, you could tell like certain little differences. Like it's not the same around, you know, either time. But it's almost hard to explain, but it's just subtle differences when you're playing the original compared to the remake. So, like with the story, with the scenario setting, I think it was done a little better in the original than it is in the remake. Like, don't get me wrong, I love the remake and I played the hell out of it, and they did a damn good job with it. But I think with the story and the scenario setting, I think it's still better with the original than it is with the remake. Like, how do you feel about that? Like when it comes to like when playing the story, because I don't know. You played both scenarios in the remake, right?
Yeah, I've completely beaten that game.
Yeah. So, like, going off with what I said, like, even though that's my personal opinion, like, how would you feel about that? Like, would you feel like maybe it's about the same, or do you feel different with, you know, how they're both compared?
It just feels like it was a different take on the same story. It's all it is.
Oh, yeah, yeah, pretty much.
In a way, it kind of feels like a what if scenario.
Yep, that is true. Because it's almost like if you took them, like, you know, how Hollywood takes movies and then they remake them, you know, there's going to be those subtle differences in how they take them. And like you said, the what if moments. Like, take, okay, spoiler alert, Pet Sematary. Like, okay, when the remake of Pet Sematary came out, like, the original focused around the young boy, whereas the remake focuses around the daughter. Why is there a car alarm going off across the street from me? I don't even know if that's getting picked up on the microphone.
I don't hear nothing.
Nah, good. I can hear it. It's just nothing good. It's not picking up. I don't even know how the soundtrack is with the new game, because I got it to where I bought the special pack that comes with the classic soundtrack. So when I'm playing the remake, I'll play the classic soundtrack for it, and it plays just like, you know, the original Resident Evil. So I never really fully sat and listened to the new soundtrack for it, which is something I got to do, of course. So I really don't even know how I would compare both soundtracks at all. But then you got the difficulty level. Like, oh my god, did I beat it on professional? No, I didn't beat it on professional. I beat it on hard, and I kind of cheated a little bit. And Capcom threw this in as a bonus. Like, what was it? Several months later, okay, they added the little bonus where you can open up. I think there was like 2 or 3 guns they give you. You get the infinite rocket launcher, the infinite submachine gun. I think you get the Gallant gun too. And then you can open up all these other special features like the 4 Survivor, Tofu, and Tofu's other fucking different skins for Tofu and different gun setups and shit like that on there. But I managed to beat the game on hard and get the achievement for that, which is like beat the game on hard or professional. And that was a bitch and a half, because depending on who you're playing as, and I usually go in as Leon. So I got infinite ammo for Leon, but when you get to Ada, that's when it starts going downhill, because Ada doesn't have infinite ammo. And when you get to the part where X is chasing you, and you gotta quickly use that fucking gizmo she has to turn on some fans and turn fans off and shit, like, I literally got to find and consume ammo, which means running around dodging the zombies to save that ammo for him and use it sparingly, at least to drop him so I could turn a couple switches on to activate a fan and then go in there. Like, that was the hardest part for me, was that hallway. Like, it took me literally like 15 times to get past that. But after that, everything just smoothed downhill. I was able to beat it, you know, in a cinch. And I was like, okay, I got my achievement for beating the game on hard or professional. But that was hard. Like, it wasn't as hard as beating, say, Resident Evil 7 on Madhouse. Have you done that yet?
Nah, I haven't messed with Madhouse yet.
Oh, that's a bitch and a half. That took me like 7 or 8 hours to do. But when you do it, it's all worthwhile, because you get that little infinite ammo perk. Even though you got to keep it in your inventory, it gives you infinite ammo for any weapon you carry. And plus you get Albert Wesker's gun in there too, which is one of the powerful I think it's a powerful handgun. It's not a Magnum. It's like the most powerful handgun that you get further on into the game. But the difficulty with this game was just like, it's sort of up there with RE7, but not as much. But I think the difficulty lies within your survival, because you know they reinvented the horror with this game. You know, with that one character, Mr. X. You know, he's constantly chasing you around the police station. Like, you could be in the fucking next room and you swear up and down you lost him, only to find that motherfucker pop in the doorway right when you go out. You know, so that was the biggest thing right there, was being on your toes and just trying to dodge him. Like, at least with the original Resident Evil, that still was terrifying to know that this motherfucker's out there and you don't know where he's gonna fucking pop up next. Fucking Kool-Aid Man through the goddamn wall in a random hallway. But This motherfucker don't do well. I think he does. I think he does come crashing through a couple walls. But this motherfucker, he knows where the fuck you're at. And he will find you no matter what. I do know one thing. Like, if you got the game on PC, check out some of their mods. Like, for me, running away from Thomas the Tank Engine, I think that's a little more scarier. I still gotta get you that mod. That way you can try that one. I was like, yeah, let's run away from Thomas the Tank Engine. I do like the character models and all. Like, you know, the character models they all look really good. You know, especially Claire Redfield and Ada. You know, they all look really good. More modernized. The game saving, of course, they brought back the traditional, use the ink ribbon and the typewriter and shit. So you gotta make sure you got ink ribbons, and if you don't, you're fucked with that. But I know one thing I don't miss is the room transitions where you're going, you know, where you gotta go when you go through the door and the door's gotta open up and shit. You ain't gotta worry about that. They took that out. You know, it's just like in real time. You just go through the door and it opens, and that's it. I mean, it is nostalgic, you know, for the door animations to see them, you know, in the original, which originally came from Sweet Home, which was originally on NES, which was actually the basis for Resident Evil right there. So that was. I mean, I really don't know too much more I could say about Resident Evil. You know, I mean, we've had our good memories with it. I don't know if there's anything else you like to say about it. I mean, I can go ahead and close this out.
I can't really think of anything.
All right, so yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and close this out. So yeah, we spent 2.5 hours on here, talking about Resident Evil and traveling down memory lane with a lot of shit. So, guys, next week we will be talking about Resident Evil 3, the original game, and talking about I guess our opinions on the remake that's coming out pretty soon. So anyway, guys, thank you for joining us today for this episode. This episode will be re-uploaded to our channel, Arrow Entertainment, so be sure to subscribe to that. Also, if you're watching us on twitch.tv/arrowwithaname and mixer.com/arrowwithaname, be sure to leave a follow with us. Also, you can catch us on Twitter at ArrowWAN2020 and at TomMurphy1018. Also follow us on Facebook.com/ArrowEncoded and Facebook.com/TeamEncoder. Do you have anything else you'd like to say?
Not that I can think of.
Alrighty. And guys, you can catch our next stream this Sunday. Check us out for another episode of Utter Random Crap. That will be, 3 p.m., I guess?
If that's what you want it to be.
Alrighty. So 2 or 3 p.m., depending on what time we get Tim in here and all. So anyway, guys, thank you for joining us today for this episode of Tune In Live. We will catch you Sunday. Be sure to join us then or check out our social medias, and we will see you then. Y'all have a good evening.